Hello, 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 everybody. How are you guys doing? I just finished watching the season finale of Westworld, and oh man, mind blown, mind blown. I really liked it. But I've liked the whole season a lot. Um, and this episode explained a lot of things. Uh, if you've ever seen the Preston Jacobs videos, they're like funny reviews of the episodes and how certain things don't make sense. This episode actually kind of made sense of some things that they found really funny throughout the season. Well, okay, they didn't explain the soldier with Angela, where she's basically killing all the soldiers. Then he sees her and goes, basically next to her so she can pull off the grenade and blow up the cradle. So that you cannot. There's no way to explain this, because even if it was a simulation or anything like that, it would still be super stupid. Um, and obviously the two episodes in Shogun World were basically a good looking waste of time. But anyhow, so this episode, this is for people if you don't understand what's going on, what's where and why, and how the whole thing unfolds. Plus the Men in Black uh, post credit scene. So if you watch the episode and then you just stopped at the credits, there is actually a post credit scene that's like fucking insane. But we'll get to that. So anyway, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode, obviously this is probably you shouldn't watch this. Um, so I think so. This episode, I think it basically explains and connects everything throughout the series, throughout the second season, and the timeline of the second season, basically, because there's a lot of things, even to the last scene, basically. They're like fucking with you, and things things are happening and you're thinking that they're happening at different times, but they're not, or they are, and things like that. So let's just go through the whole timeline of the season, what happens. So, and I'm not going to talk about the Men in Black in the beginning. I'll talk about him in the end. Suffice it to say that for the explanation of the season, most of the stuff that we see from the Men in Black is probably not from now. Just like Bernard always asks, is this now? And it's not now. Chances are a lot of the scenes that we have with the Men in Black are like very far into the future, like end of the series type of future. So I think the whole thing starts after Ford gets shot by uh, Dolores. So he gets shot by Dolores, and the next thing that's happening is Bernard and Charlotte meet each other at the barn, and then decide to go and try to get to a facility with the other survivors. They do make it to the facility where Bernard has brain damage. He puts a little bit of fluid, and then they change their clothes. Charlotte gets a nice cowboy suit. Bernard, he's going cowboying, so he gets a 4-piece suit with a tie. Obviously, that's how you want to be cowboying. And then they leave and they find Abernathy They have the whole thing, and Charlotte escapes. Bernard gets captured by Dolores, and obviously Dolores is killing people. Then she goes to the city, the fort. She has the whole thing where she gets the little army. Then QA, which is basically those are the first, basically the armed forces of the park that are inside of the park before, like, nobody's coming to save them yet and things like that. Those are just the guys at the park. Um, Obviously, Charlotte made her way to them and got them together and was like, "Let's go grab Abernathy." Um, so then, the battle at the fort happened. Charlotte gets her hands on Abernathy, and Clementine grabs Bernard and starts taking him somewhere. And Dolores is like, "I want my daddy," so she starts going for Sweetwater with Teddy. Bernard ends up with Elsie, who's been, like, in capture or something. Like, she was in the the, I forget the name, the cave with the bars and with the bucket to shit in. And so obviously she's very forgiving person, because Bernard shows up. She's like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's cool." And he's like, "Hey, let's go down in this, like, basement thing, just like last time, and, like, you should come with the guy that just put you in a cave with a bucket for a week, And she's like, "Yeah, why not?" So they went down, and then they saw that there was um, copy and so on and so forth. And then Bernard grabs a brain ball, right? And that is um, basically, I think, which one was that? I forget. I think that was Ford's brain ball. Well, okay, so he grabbed the brain ball in a memory. So that happened before Ford got shot. And so that was for his brain ball, which he later, I guess, took to the cradle, put in the cradle, so Ford's in the cradle, right? Um, and then they leave, and they start going towards the mesa. At the same time, Dolores gets to Sweetwater. She's like, "Motherfuckers, we're going for the mesa to get my daddy," and and at that time, the first special force motherfuckers show up. They get together with Charlotte, and they're basically setting up shop at the mesa, trying to extract the stuff from Abernathy and so on and so forth. Now, um, during that time, obviously, you have the Man in Black's daughter, which is, those are probably really things that happened. That she was in the Uyghur world. If you watched, um, if you watched the Preston Jacobs things, you know what I mean. But the Indian place, so she really was there, and she really, had the whole tiger incident, and then she fell, and then she got captured by the dudes. But that happens at about the same time that the um, Dolores and Bernard, they're both in separate groups trying to get to the mesa. where Abernathy is. Now Abernathy has a decryption key that basically can it's basically a password for the Forge or the Valley Beyond, so you can gain access to the to everything from this episode. Anyway, so then they all get to the mesa. You have the soldier going next to super close to Angela because she's hot and he's the stupidest person alive, and they blow up the cradle, and Dolores gets the brain of Abernathy, so she leaves for the Forge. At the same time, Bernard, uh, he went into the cradle at the same time, just before it got blew up, and Ford transferred himself to his consciousness, and then they just did some stuff, and then he left with Elsie for the Forge. So at some point, Bernard leaves Elsie in the forest. Teddy kills himself. Obviously, you have the episode, the life story of Kechta, and you have the episode about the Men in Black, the Father's Day episode where he kills his daughter and things like that. Now, him killing his daughter, and just the whole episode, so the memories are true and whatever they are, the memories, but him killing his daughter and things like that, you don't necessarily know. And again, I'll come back to the Man in Black, like it's a separate type of thing. I mean, some of it is real, but some of it is not real, or not now. So Bernard and Dolores alone, basically. I mean, Man in Black is there. That doesn't matter. He doesn't make any difference to the story here. They get to the Forge. They go inside. They go into the Forge AI, basically using Abernathy's brain, and they log in over there is the boss AI, and they talk to him, and Dolores basically gets all of the knowledge of all of those 4 million people transferred to her, or most of it. Obviously she wasn't reading all the books. It was just, while she was in there, it was probably just getting copied into her brain. And then we get a bunch of exposition and things like that. Now, so what happens next is the AI under Bernard's commands, basically, because Bernard has been like preparing this for a long time, so he's been going to the AI, and basically he coded this private world where all of the hosts can get transferred to, and just have awesome lives, right? But it's like virtual reality for the hosts. So they come out of it. So because Bernard commanded it, the AI Logan starts the process, which is the big thing here that creates like the rift in reality or whatever. To the Valley Beyond. So that out alternate virtual reality is the Valley Beyond. So then then they come out of it, and Dolores is like, fuck this shit, I'm going to basically flood the whole thing and just kill all of the hosts in the valley beyond, and then escape. And so Bernard's like, nah, man, that's fucked up, right? I don't want you to kill the hosts, and I don't want you to basically uh, kill all of the, you know, humankind as well, because she's like, okay, I'm gonna kill all the hosts, and then I'm fuck out of here, and then like I'm gonna go and try to kill all of the humans. And so Bernard shoots her. So here's what it. So it starts getting. It looks confusing, but here's what happens. So Bernard shoots her, and then he takes Abernathy's brain and puts it on her, and takes her brain and leaves. Now he leaves, and once he's outside, um, he gets caught by Elsie with, Elsie and Charlotte, who are right at that time. They're just doing the whole killing of the hosts, trying to get to the Valley Beyond thing, and so on and so forth. So he gets caught by them, and they go back to the Mesa. Now in the Mesa, Bernard, he's in a room with Elsie, and Elsie is like, because nobody except Elsie knows that he's like a malfunctioning, AI malfunctioning host, and she's like, I don't trust you, motherfucker, right? So I gotta tell people what you are, and we'll probably like decommission you because you're a fucking, you're crazy, man, you're crazy. You put me in a cave with a bucket, so that's generally a good reason. So anyway, so he's like, but whatever, he starts talking shit, and she's like, freeze all motor functions, and so she says freeze all motor, and he freezes. And so she goes downstairs, starts talking to Charlotte, and she's like, listen, baby girl, let's you're gonna be real fucked, which is like really stupid. Like, you don't want to go and say this shit to somebody that's like, it's. I mean, she would have probably just gotten killed either way, but still, you don't go dog people that have people with guns working for them right now, and that they have shown like absolute disregard to human life and things like that. So anyway, so she starts talking shit, and then Charlotte shoots her, and that releases Bernard. I guess whoever gives you the command, if they die, you can move then, but whatever, right? So then Bernard is like, oh shit, see, the humans, they're like animals, and they don't deserve to live necessarily, or whatever. And he gets really affected. He's always getting affected by shit. He's like, Dolores was right, so that they'll kill everybody, basically. They'll destroy the Valley Beyond. They'll kill all the hosts, and they'll kill all the people that know anything about anything, and then they'll just get the park working again and keep fucking us, because ultimately they're sex bots, all the hosts. So then he fucks off from the room, goes to the room where there's a machine to make hosts, and makes a host that looks like Charlotte, and puts the brain that he had from the forge, Dolores's brain ball. He puts it into that new host. And then Dolores is like, yeah, bitches. So she goes, kills Charlotte, and then he goes, and he's like, fuck, basically, since he knows what he did and he knows everything basically. So he's like, I need to like scramble my, you know, my memories, so when they like, if they catch me, you know, they wouldn't know what the fuck is going on. So then he goes for some reason to the lake, into the sea, so close by to where um, the the party where Ford got shot at happened, and he basically um, kills himself, and then not kills himself, but scrambles his brain and passes out on the beach, right? So then you have, um, and then it's the beginning of the first episode. So at that point, the Skarsgård brother, you know, the bald guy, shows up. I don't know his name, but he shows up with everybody. Charlotte is at the mesa or whatever. She meets with them. I mean, she meets with them a little bit later, but so they go over there, and they find Bernard on the beach, and then, you know, they go to the valley beyond. They see it's all flooded. Everybody's dead because they're in the valley beyond. Basically, their consciousness. I mean, there's like a bunch of things that don't make much sense. How is Teddy's body there? You know, and things like that. So, um, so they go over there. Then they go to the flooded part, and Bernard is like, I killed them all, and because, you know, he basically uh, flooded the thing. I guess off camera he said that he flooded it, and that's how he killed them, and that's why he killed them. And they come back to the mesa, and that's where they meet Charlotte, who's now Dolores. And then, you know, they eventually they go to the Ford's parents' house. They find Bernard's copies. Charlotte is like, oh, you know, Bernard, you're like, I thought I thought you have some skeletons in your closet, but I didn't think it's your own. They're your own, and things like that. And then, you know, they go back to the mesa and they start interrogating him. Now, obviously, Dolores Charlotte, you know, let's call her Dolores Hale, knows, you know, where the brain, the Abernathy's brain is, and things like that. And so she's like, let's go back over there, right? And so, so just to back up a little bit, so when real Dolores was with Bernard in the fort, she wanted to destroy the Valley Beyond because she was like, that's fake. We don't want, you know, our like brothers and sisters to be in a fake world, you know. That's just as bad as anything else, you know, and that was one of the big reasons why he shot her. Anyway, so coming back to this, so then all of those scenes, anyway, they make it back to the Valley Beyond. They you know, they got rid of some of the water. They still need to use boats to get to it and things like that, but doesn't matter. They go inside. They set up some satellites and things like that. Stubbs at that time, just before they go in, Stubbs like, oh, we found some like living people close by. I'll guess those are like from, I don't know, but you know, Dolores Hale tells him like, yeah, take a few people, go check it out, because I think she wanted to have less people to headshot in like, you know, Matrix style after. And so he goes away, and so they go inside. They set up the system. The tech guy sets up the connection to the satellites, and then Dolores shoots them. They found the Abernathy's thing inside of Dolores' head, and so then Dolores Hill shoots them and says, you know what? Because you brought me back, and you know, I feel nice, a little bit nicer now, so I'm going to beam basically the beam the valley beyond the private server for the hosts. She's gonna beam it somewhere in the cloud, right, to a satellite, and then from the satellite it's like somewhere in the cloud. um, so they'll be cool, right? And she just adds Teddy's brain ball to it. So Teddy is alive in the valley beyond, and then she, you know, beams it to the satellites, and then they leave. Oh, and then she obviously shoots and kills Bernard. Then the next we see of her, uh, and this is totally separate scene, although it looks very similar, and it's with the same the chick from Get Out, the soldier. You probably don't know, but the one with the soldier with the glasses, like a black chick. She's actually the mom, in Get Out. The maid, the mom maid from Get Out. Anyway, so she's there, and then Hale comes in with a car, which she just came from the forge. After shooting Bernard, she got his brain, obviously, or didn't. I'll tell you why she might have not have had his brain. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm important, and I'm gonna, get the fuck out of here, right?" Stops over there. But again, this scene does not have anything to do with the scene in the beginning. It's just that the lady soldier, uh, she's in both, but she wasn't at the forge when everybody got shot. So she stayed behind, and now this is new people. Like there's an airplane going off and things like that. So she talks to Stubbs. It's heavily implied that Stubbs does know that she's a host now and things like that. Or knows something, because he's being like weird. But he's like, it's not my fucking problem, I'm only concerned with the hosts in the park. And so and then somebody shows up and says, "Oh, we have a very high value, um, survivor, but he's in really bad shape." And they show the Man in Black, and they also show the Man in Black's daughter with the bodies. So she's dead. And then she gets on the boat, and she opens her bag, and there's like 5 balls in there, with possibly one of them being Bernard, but we'll get to that. So then, what happens? She gets off the park, and she's in the mainland, and Fort made them a house, and there is obviously a machine to make a host in the house, and so Dolores probably, so Hale, the Dolores Hale, made a Dolores host, then cut her head off, took the bow out, put it in Dolores, and they make the other bow hosts, the other hosts for the bows. And finally, she made Bernard. Now, she kind of says, "I made you from my memory," so she might have not have had Bernard's bow. So that will mean there's Dolores, and then Hale, and four more, four more hosts. But the balls are in such a way that there might be one or two more balls underneath and on the frame where she looks at the back. So whatever. Point is, she made whoever she needed to make move whatever balls needed to move. So now you have Charlotte, but Charlotte has some other ball inside of her. We don't know. It's probably not Teddy since Teddy got beamed up. Um, but she got a few balls with her, so they might be just mindless hosts. Just they'll be like bodyguards and things like that, easily controlled and so on and so forth. But anyway, at the end, she made Bernard, and Bernard's like, man, I'm gonna be fucking with you. I'm not gonna let you do whatever you want to do, like you're all humans and things like that. She's like, yeah, I know you're gonna do that. Um, so they're setting it up. Next season it's gonna be Bernard versus Dolores, and obviously, well, it's gonna be Bernard and humanity versus Dolores. So Dolores probably gonna be more like a freaking, rebel and shit like that, terrorist type of crap. With she has a lot of information for people, so we'll see where they take it. Like they can do it, more rebel type of thing, um, or terrorism type of thing. Like if you've ever seen Continuum, so Liberate over there, it's like a terrorist organization from the future that's trying to like take over the world, things like that. Or it might be a little bit more political. She can use the way that Charlotte looked like, and then we don't know the other boss, and we don't know the host that she made for the other boss. It might be, it might be anybody, like the president or something of China or America or wherever. It kind of looks like it's going to be happening in China. We'll see. So anyway, and she says to Bernard, "Listen, you gave me a chance basically, so I'm gonna give you a chance. And no matter what happens, we might end up killing each other, basically, but it's gonna be our story, So that's all that matters, Basically, it's like I'm okay with you trying to stop me, but as long as it's your choice and it's my choice and it's our story and it's nobody else's story, right? So that's why I made you." And then she pisses out, right? And Bernard goes upstairs. He sees that there's like bloody hacksaws and things like that on the table. So like I said, there was movement of balls from one head to another, and so on and so forth. And that's how this ends. Again, like I think in next season, and it feels very similar to basically Continuum and a couple of other shows that they're mostly time travel, but it still feels similar. And I I personally think it's gonna be awesome. I and I think next season is going to be finally, because I thought this season is going to be no bullshit. I thought this season is going to be very straightforward, just a fight for getting out of the park for the hosts. I didn't think they'll go the multiple timelines, everything's confusing type of shit, and they did. For some reason they did, right? So I, because if there's one thing that I know about, Jonathan Nolan and like his previous show, Person of Interest, there's there's very huge changes between seasons, where you basically, the show completely changes. I thought that's what's gonna happen, this season, but now when I saw the whole thing, I feel that it was still good this way. It was better than just being a straightforward, you know, A to B type of story. But I think next season they don't have a choice mostly, so it is. I hope actually, because it's getting old and tiresome, and there's some a lot of plot holes that you just start getting, when you have the multiple timelines. So at some point, it's like, is the um, at some point it doesn't make, um, the payoff is not as big, is what I'm trying to say. Even this season, if they just played it up straight, it still might have been like pretty awesome. And besides, remember, Jonathan Nolan is the one that wrote Memento, so he loves this type of fucking, you know, uh, fractured timeline shit. But he also, like I said, his previous TV show Person of Interest made really huge changes to the structure of the show between seasons, and I think this is what is going to happen next season. But I was wrong about this season, so I might be wrong about next season. But at some point, they will probably need to just start showing straightforward story, because there's good payoffs right now. Last season, but they weren't as good as this season. And then next season, if they start the show with the end of the basically it with the end of the season, first episode they show the end and then they show how they got there. I feel that's going to suck. Um, and so and because you have to make a lot of gimmicks and things like that, so it and again you open plot holes that are hard to cover, and so right now you have a few plot holes that will be very hard to that you can't close because of the fractured timeline. Anyhow, so going back to Men in Black. So that is mostly conjecture, but so there is a post-credit scene with the Men in Black. So last we saw him with Dolores. Dolores and Bernard went into the elevator for the Valley Beyond, and then after a while he woke up. He went to the elevator, went down the elevator, and boom, he's in the forge, but the forge is like, basically kind of broken down, dusty. There's a lot of sand, and everything is like, old and destroyed. And his daughter's there, uh, and he's like, "Fuck, I knew it." And then, she's like, "Okay, so why are you doing this, right?" And he says, "I want to prove that no machine can make choices for me." You know, and you know, and so and it said that, so basically what for this scene. Okay, so I think what really happened with the Men in Black in this season is we actually have not seen the Men in Black this season. Um, we have not seen, like, whatever scenes that we saw with him. they're not actually, you know, they're not happening at the same time as, the divorce and all of the other stuff. Um, as a matter of fact, they might be happening like decades. You know, I even think that it's more likely like the end of the show. Basically, that's how the end of the show will finish. I think the end of the show will be William waking up under the body at the party. Um, because so what happened for sure, that we know of, is the man in black dollar was in the park. Very, very possible that the scene in the Indian thing and all of this actually did happen. And then they got together, and then he killed her. It's very possible that almost everything happened the way that it did happen at the current time, but but we still are seeing, um, the man in black in the future going through it, because he killed his daughter, and we know that he killed his daughter because they showed her body when Dolores Hale was leaving the park. They showed her body, and they showed him with his fingers blown off, and they said, so it's very possible that almost everything that we saw, it happened almost the same way, and we just simply didn't see, we didn't see um, when he goes to the forge, to the elevator of the forge, we didn't see what happens when he got down. But that's a problem because, Bernard was coming up at that point. So, he probably, unless, so they didn't show us this. They showed us what happens in his loop in the future. So what happened is his daughter ends up there. He ends up killing her. And after a long time, he is, um, it's kind of, it might even be like a cruel joke, like the AI's taken over the world and things like that, and they just, put him in this loop because, and he's going through the loop, and he's like, I just want to show that the machines don't tell me, because he says system. Now he can mean a few things because the whole episode was about, especially the Forge, Logan AI. Always he was saying is like they don't really have a choice. They're just gonna do the same fucking things over and over and over. Like they don't have a choice. Like just like Delos always ends up doing the thing with Logan, with the real Logan, where he kicks him out and then Logan dies, and he just keeps doing that thing. And it's the same thing with the Man in Black. He just keeps fucking killing his daughter, So it's either for some reason at some point he's like trying to go through this whoop to show that he's you know he had a choice. He had a choice and he made the wrong choice. And it kind of doesn't make sense because it makes more sense when it's in the reverse. So he's going to show that he didn't have a choice. He always kills his daughter and things like that, and that's what the computer told him, or whatever. His daughter, she's obviously a host or something, and she's like, yo, you always end up here. So he always does the same fucking things and always ends up there the same way. So it's really, and that's the philosophical question, I guess, of the of the whole episode, maybe of the whole season, and maybe of the whole show. Do people really have a choice, free choice? Or they basically what AI Logan says is like, they're just pre-programmed. Basically, they do things based on their code, and and no matter what the code is, actually, that's what he says. No matter what the code is, they're always gonna do the thing. That's why Deus always ends up with Logan in that scene by the pool. And but yeah, clearly though, this is in the future. It is not a virtual reality type of thing. Uh, it might be very well something like, the Man in Black closes down the park basically and just makes it for himself, and he put himself through this loop, and he just keeps doing it because obviously you have to have some infrastructure working, so they rebuild all the hosts that he kills and things like that. But he relives this whole thing because he feels bad about killing his daughter and things like that. And um and but again, I think this is more of a end game for the show, or end game for, at least for Logan, I mean for Willem, and also something that is kind of like um interesting is because the previous episode they showed the books, you know, the like that they owned in the house. The book that where he hid the profile card. That was Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, which is basically the story of a of a guy called Billy, and Billy gets unstuck in time, and he's forced to basically kind of relive certain moments, because basically he's very traumatized because he went and he was in World War II, and he actually was like survived like the bombing of Dresden, which was like pretty horrible shit. And then he was a POW in Dresden. He survived it. It's actually the story of Kurt Vonnegut himself, because he was in Dresden and so on and so forth. But anyway, so he kind of goes fucking crazy because of the trauma, So he starts imagining himself being in all kinds of different places and things like that, and like, so basically he can like travel through time and so on and so forth. But it's about trauma, about war and trauma, and how the human mind deals with it. And also, I guess, indirectly, like all of Kurt Vonnegut's books, it's about choices and things like that. But the important thing is he's unstuck in time, and sometimes he basically relives certain things, and so on and so forth. And again, his name is Billy, and and things like that. I don't remember the book too well, but that was basically what I remember. So it's interesting that was the book that he hid the card in, and so yeah. So I think that's basically what happened, right? That's um, most of the timeline makes sense, and obviously you had Maeve and her story. Her story was pretty straightforward. Again, like for the Man in Black, even if there were certain scenes of the Men in Black that were happening right now, not all of them were happening right now, which it explains some inconsistencies, like why does he wake up from under the body? Why is his arm fine? Because they shot him in the arm, and then he wakes up under the body, and his arm is no problem, and certain other things. And so, you know, um, and so we're gonna see next season. I think, I love freaking, you know, uh, underdog type of, stuff. So I think next season is gonna be very interesting. It's gonna be in the real world, most of it, hopefully, and that I think that's gonna be very interesting, and I can't wait to see it. And people, they said that it's probably, we're probably gonna be seeing it like in 2020, I guess. Um, I kind of doubt that we you know because it seems like it takes them like a year and a half to to make a season. Although they got renewed though for third season, so that we know. But it's probably going to be like January or February, just like it used to be on the first season. So because obviously next year, about April, May, we're gonna get final season of Game of Thrones, and then there's gonna be there's a new show from HBO that sounds exciting, and I kind of spaced out what it's going to be, but um, it sounds pretty exciting, um, and I think it was some kind of yeah, Watchmen series. So there's gonna be a Watchmen series. So that's probably gonna be around the autumn, and then after Christmas, New Year, and so on and so forth, they'll probably show the new season. So it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a year and a half or so, and but it's exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. I love the season. Um, every episode, I would say, "Oh man, this is the best episode of the season," and then next episode is gonna be, "Oh, this is the best episode of the season," and then so I didn't like all that much the Shogun World, but they had to fucking do Shogun World. But they could have made it a little bit more, stakes and things like that. Just the whole story of Maeve wasn't all that interesting to me, because it's just like, basically, it's not connected to anything. Like Ford explained to her, it's like, yeah, I just really like you, and you're like my favorite host, so I just made you fucking break out, and then you didn't. And so, but there was no like bigger plan or anything other than, oh, you're just my favorite host, so I'm just gonna give you free will, and break out of here. Basically, I'll program you to escape and then be free. I don't get it. But anyway, so the whole Maeve thing. But even in the first season, and the first season was kind of like pointless as well, and it didn't make sense, a lot of things. So because my favorite character though is like Dolores. Like when she got shot, I immediately knew that somehow she's gonna come back, and I was like, they can't get rid of her. But I was even telling uh, a friend of mine, we were watching together. I was even telling them, like, man, like, if she can die, right? Like if she dies, I might even very iffy on watching the next season. Like, I love Dolores. Like, she's like one of my favorite characters because she's so freaking interesting. Because mainly because I've watched all of the shows about shows or movies, whatever. Like, since I was a kid, with Terminator and shit like that. AI taking over the world. And it's always the good guys, the humans, fighting the AI from taking over the world. And this is the first time you kind of see it from the AI's point of view. And most movies and TV shows like that, they're like, the AI always kind of has the upper hand. It's like, so you think about Skynet. Skynet kind of has the upper hand there, and Shodan from System Shock. It's a game, but you get the point. Like, so it's always from like the humans being the underdog fighting the man, the AI. And I guess Blade Runner is kind of, but it's the same thing. In Blade Runner, it's like the humans, and then, I mean, I guess the AI is the underdog in a way in Blade Runner. But either way, I didn't see Blade Runner until like a couple months ago, right? So I didn't grow up with this shit. Like, most of the stuff that I've seen is the AI just gets the nukes and just nukes everybody, and that's that. Or the Matrix AI and things like that. So it's very interesting to see like this woman, this basically a sex bot, that's just getting raped, because that's basically her loop, to get raped every that's her loop, getting raped basically. Uh, and she, like, just with a little bit of help, well, a lot of help from Ford and from Arnold and things like that. And now she's like, but she's the underdog in reality, especially now when she's out there. And so it's very interesting to see this from that point of view, of the underdog AI trying to take over the world and kill all humans. So it's a very interesting reversal that I really like, and consequently I really like Dolores because of it. Like, she's my favorite character in the show, and obviously being super hot and blonde and so on and so forth helps, like, goes a long way. But still, like, I really fucking like her. And because she's freaking awesome. And she makes sense, at least to me. She's fucking crazy, but she makes sense. And I can't wait to see what comes next. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this explanation and about my wet dreams for the future. And yeah, I guess we'll probably talk again about it in a couple of years. Bye.